Forrest, what did you do now? I don't think I mentioned, but I'm 14th. I'm starting as an OBGYN intern doctor. That's cool as hell. Wait till you see a couple of vaginas and then you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Vagina? And then after you see a bunch of them, you're like, great, another vagina. Because that's how it works. That's what happens. Once you've seen one vagina, you've seen them all. Pretty much. I'm not even joking. Hey, Kush. When I had to help assist with vaginal exams or like, you know, IUD insertions or like yeast infection or exams or whatever, the person would be on the table, you know, with their legs in the stirrups, and I'd be like handing the doctor these Q-tips and stuff, big ones though, and then I'd just be like existing in the room, and then sometimes I would have this like weird moment where I would suddenly remember what a vagina is, and I'd be like, oh my god, that's a vagina right there. But more in the way where it was like, because I don't know, I don't see like, well, during the time I saw a lot of vaginas on the regular, which is why it became normal. But then sometimes you just have this moment where you're like, oh yeah, vagina. Boris has been telling me a lot of OBGYN horror stories. That has been fun. Yeah, there's a ton of those as well. But more like, you know, you can have fistulas, so sometimes there will be like a... you know what a fistula is, but maybe other people don't. So sometimes you'll get a fistula, which will mean that there's a rupture in the wall. Feel free to correct me also, I'm not a doctor. A rupture in like the wall that separates the urethra from like the vagina, or maybe it's more that it's just the vagina from like the anus, or the, what is it, the anus? Yeah, your rectum. So sometimes if you're really unlucky, you can poop out of your vagina. And that happens sometimes, and it's okay. You can see a doctor. It's not great, but
vital signs stabilizing.
If you're really unlucky, if you're not lucky at all, that happens. But it's like, yeah, you get caught up in the work part of it, to where you're like, here I go looking at vaginas again, and it's just part of the job. And then you'll have this moment. Most of the time I would be like, oh my god, a vagina, and then I would be like, I don't know, I was really about respecting the privacy of the person, because some of the other girls, when they were working, they would be like, they were like, do you look at the vagina? And I was like, I mean, not really. It's there, but I don't really look at it per se. And they're like, I remember one girl, she's like, I'd be looking at all of them. And I was like, you've done my exams before. And she's like, oh yeah, I was looking. And I was like, wow, thanks. She's like, yeah, I look every time. I'll tell you the worst one. If you're eating, you don't want to know about this one. This is a horror story. I'm prefacing this right now with, this is the horror story that would happen, okay? It's going to be gross. It's going to be gross. So you decide if you want to listen or not, okay? And then when it's over, we will post Peepo Courages in the chat. Alright, I'm telling it. So the worst thing that would happen, and probably one of the worst things that Faraz will deal with too, is when people either forget that they have a tampon in, or they somehow lose it. Because I guess some people somehow lose their tampons in there and can't get them out. And so, like, usually the advice is to, you know, either try to get it out, try to find it, like, put your leg up on the bathtub, squat down or something, because your anatomy changes a little bit, I think, by depending on the way that you move. Some people forget they have intercourse when they have tampon in. Forrest already told that story, yeah. So you can possibly get toxic shock syndrome, depending. Oh, it was the potato one. Okay. But So people will lose a tampon in there, and you can get someone else to ask to help you to get it out. Can be like, hey, I lost a tampon, can you try to get it out? Final resort usually for people is that they'll go to the doctor and they'll be like, I lost a tampon, can you get it out for me? Which it's not fun. Usually when that would happen in the doctor's office, it's after it's been in there for a while. Because usually it's not that someone knows and they're like, oops, I just remembered it's in there. Usually when they remember, they don't actually. Usually what happens is someone comes in and they're like, I have a really bad odor going on. I have really weird discharge. I'm not really sure what's going on. And we're like, okay, we'll do some swabs. We'll do an exam. We'll kind of see what's going on. And usually when that happens, it's like a yeast infection or maybe like, you know, like a chlamydia or something, or gonorrhea. Makes weird discharge. Or, is it vaginitis? Bacterial vaginosis, that's the one. So then, when someone realizes that they have some sort of smell and weird discharge going on, the worst days for us were when this person gets onto the table, we put the speculum in, and when you have a tampon that's been stuck in there for a while and you don't realize it, usually it still has blood in it. A lot of times people are having unprotected sex, so it probably has cum in it too. It also has vaginal discharge in it, or whatever has been going on in your vagina. And who knows what else it's gone there, maybe lubrication, everything like that. So most of the time when that would happen, we would put the speculum in, and because they're also made out of cotton and they degrade over time, and depending on what you've been doing, usually it looks like a rat. It looks like a wet, dead rat. Because it's like brown with like old blood and cum and everything else. And the smell of them is the worst smell ever. We called it Code Maroon. And what we would have to do is we would have to take it out. We'd be like, oh, we know what it is. You had a tampon in there that you must have forgot about. We would take the tampon out we would all put masks on. We would usually put like peppermint or even smelling salt in our mask, so we're not gagging. Most girls did gag that were working there. We take this dead rat out of the vagina. We put it into a urine sample cup that we had because they had lids on them. So we would put it in the urine sample cup, close it, and we would put it in a bag. We would tie it up. We would put it in another bag. We would tie it up. We would put it in another bag. We would tie it up, and then we would put it into the biohazard bin. And usually we would have to call the biohazard people to come out and get the bag immediately, or it would smell up the entire office was smelled so bad because of this dead rat tampon. And then, yes, hopefully they incinerate it. But that is the worst. That was the worst stuff. I would rather assist with scraping people's anal warts off with acid than I would for a tampon that has been living inside of someone. And that's it. That's the story. That's the story. You can peepo courage in the chat now. I'll finish with that. The dead rat. The dead rat. Now you know. Code dead rat. Peepo courage. Peepo courage. There you go. Far as they're so common. They happen like way more than you would think.